Okay. So God said to Abraham, I'm going to make an investigation. We'll see whether in Sodom it happened the way it was reported. And if so, there's going to be destruction. So now, verses 23 through 25 are Abraham's response. It's complex. So I'll read you through it and explain to you some of the complexities, then we'll look at the Rashis in detail. Abraham came forward and said, will you also stamp out the righteous along with the wicked? You said destruction. Destruction. Does that mean that everyone will die? The righteous together with the wicked? What if there should be 50 righteous people in the midst of the city? Would you still stamp it out rather than spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people within it? It would be sacrilege to you to do such a thing, to bring death upon the righteous along with the wicked. So the righteous will be like the wicked. It would be sacrilege to you. Shall the judge of all the earth not do justice? Now take a minute or two to look at those words, those 3 verses, and try to figure out what Abraham wants. What does Abraham want from God here? This is page 83.
He wants Hashem to reconsider.
To reconsider. Okay, that's easy enough. Okay, right? In any specific way, hint or ways, yeah.
He doesn't want them judged together.
What, the righteous? Okay, that's interesting what you're saying. They don't judge together. In other words, as one collectivity, indiscriminately, but rather the righteous should be judged differently from the wicked. Okay, is that all he wants?
I mean, I see he's praising Hashem.
Praising Hashem?
Yeah, he's like you, the great. Like, how good.
It's a kind of praise, but he's saying, since you're the judge of all the earth and you're telling me this is what you're going to do, are you not going to do justice? Right. That's a praise with an elbow in the ribs. Like, come on, you can't do that. But look at verse 24. What does 24 say?
50 righteous people.
Bargain.
What does it say?
What if there is 50 righteous people in the midst of the city? Would you still stamp it, or rather spare the place for the sake of the righteous people within it?
What is he asking for in 24?
Spare the righteous people?
No, look again. Not at all. Not asking to spare the righteous people.
He's making a mitzvah.
To save the rest of the city?
Yeah, if there are 50 righteous people there, save the rest of the city. 23 and 25 say one thing, and 24 says something else. Something quite different. 23 and 25 say you can't kill the righteous. It will be unjust. You're the judge of all the earth. It will be sacrilege to you. Very strongly. 24 says, if there are righteous people, 50 righteous people in the city, don't even kill the wicked. That's another thought entirely. Indeed, if I put it in moral terms, 23 and 25 are demands for justice. 24 is a plea for mercy. Not on a par with 23 and 25 at all. 23 and 25 are bold statements. You can't do this. 24 doesn't say that. 24 says, I'm asking you, if there are 50 righteous, don't kill the wicked either. It's a very complex thing that Abraham's doing here. Okay, now let's read the Rashis. There's got to be a way to make this stay lit up instead of fading on me all the time. Okay. I'm sure there is, yeah. You can tell how little lights stay on. So, 25. That's right, I only did 25 here. I didn't do the other ones because the Rashis weren't helpful for what I want. Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to put to death the righteous with the wicked. So the righteous should be like the wicked. Far be it from you. Will the judge of the entire earth not perform justice? So Rashi says, far be it from you. If you say that the righteous will not save the wicked, as I asked you in 24, if there are 50 righteous, please save the wicked. If you say no to that, still, why should you kill the righteous? They're not wicked. Far be it from you. The Hebrew chalila means profane, chulin. Chol is as opposed to kodesh. Kodesh is holy, and chol is not holy. To say that something is chol for God is contradictory to his character. In a certain sense, we're shadowboxing here because God's character, so to speak, would transcend holiness also. But at the very least, if we're going to say anything about it, holiness is going to be an essential characteristic. And he says, Chalila, if you do this, it'll be inconsistent with your holiness. It'll be profane. Now, here Rashi says something absolutely crucial. Where is the profane? What's the profane impact? Listen to what Rashi says. They will say, the onlooker, the observers will say, so is his craft. He inundates everyone, righteous and wicked. So you did the generation of the flood, the generation of the dispersion. Since here we know who's righteous and who's wicked, and you killed everybody in Sodom, so we can presume that this is your principle of action, collective punishment, which you were saying before against. I think that's right, collective punishment. And then we look back at the flood, we'll say, who says the people were all wicked? We know what God does. When things get bad enough, he destroys everybody, including the righteous ones. And the ones who were dispersed in the Tower of Babel, who says they were all rebellious? The majority were. It needed to be done, and the other ones were swept along with it, right? So the profane element here Rashi is stressing is that people will say this. It's from the point of view of the onlooker. I wouldn't have said it that way. I would have said, if you destroy the righteous together with the wicked, you're not doing justice. That's what the verse says, right? But now, what are you complaining about, Abraham? If you don't know who's who, then you'll never have this complaint. God says he's doing destruction, right? Even the righteous with the wicked, you would never know that they were, in fact, righteous unless you could judge that they're righteous. You see that they're righteous. You have to have some righteous people in mind, right? So that's why I think he talks about appearances. And this is a recurring theme when the Jewish people create the golden calf, and Moses pleads on their behalf not to be destroyed. He says, what will people say? When they do the sin of the spies, he says again, what will people say? What will people say is a very important claim vis-a-vis God. And the reason is because God's purpose is not to have a special relationship with the Jewish people and the rest of the world can sort of sink. In fact, like Yeshaya, Navi says, we're supposed to be an Or Lagoyim. We're supposed to be an instrument by which the rest of the people of the world can be brought back on board. So to appeal to God on the grounds that people will get a wrong impression of what you're doing is a relevant appeal. Okay, so now he says, Ashi's Medaik, it says, if you do something like this, a thing such as this, meaning this isn't the only thing that would be contradictory to your holiness, this or anything similar to it would be contradictory. Far be it from you. I'm going to skip that one because I don't trust the source. Will the judge of the entire earth, when it says Hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat, so you have to be careful how to read it. Rashi says Hashofet means the judge, usually. In this context, it doesn't say the judge. The ha is shall it be so? Will it be so? It's a hey that introduces a question. And that's why it's vowelized the way it is. Will he who judges not perform justice? Okay. Now, Let's go back to the text. 26. Shem said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous people in the midst of the city, then I would spare the entire place on their account. I can't resist but add in here an Even Ezra. Look carefully at 24 and carefully at 26 and tell me, is God agreeing to what Abraham said? Read very carefully, very precisely, and don't allow any redundancies, and tell me whether God is agreeing to what Abraham said or not. Okay. Talk about saving the entire city. All right.
No, he's not.
What do you? Why would you say no?
If there's 50, then would you destroy the city for 50? And God says, if I find 50, then I won't destroy it.
So, if there are, he'll find them, right? He's not going to miss them.
Right.
It's not exactly the same words, but it's not obviously a disagreement. But let me ask you this question. Where should the 50 be?
In the city.
Really? What does 26 say?
If I find in the midst of the city, then I would spare the entire place on their account.
Gee, I don't know. I think to me you skipped some words. Did you read 26?
Yeah.
Read it again.
Hashem said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous people in the midst of the city.
He adds in Sodom.
Right.
Rashi, Avram didn't say in Sodom. And indeed, isn't it Sodom we're talking about? So God's words are redundant. He adds to Avram. You know, if you're writing a contract, and the other guy has to sign, the other guy put the pencils in, add this word in, you think, uh-oh, why is he adding that word in? He knows some case law somewhere. He knows I'm going to lose my shirt. You know, I'm going to ask my lawyer. You know, if he's not going to take it the way we formulated it, there's something dangerous going on here. And he's absolutely right. You have to worry about that. So, why is God? So the Even Ezra says, you, Abraham, said there should be 50 people in the city. Their residence is within the city limits. I, God, say that's not enough. They have to be publicly identified in the city. There has to be political tension in the city. Some are saying doing it this way, and some are saying do it that way. And that way, there's hope that the city will change. But if it isn't that kind of resistance in the city, then I'll save the righteous and I will destroy the wicked. You want to save the wicked also, only if there's some hope for them to change. That's what God adds stone to in the midst of the city. It's a beautiful, beautiful word on the part of the Even Ezra. Okay, so now it's 27. So now he's sort of speak, won from God a concession. God said, if it's this way, I'm going to wipe them out. Abraham says, please save the whole city for the sake of 50 righteous. And God says, yes. So Abraham says, okay, I'm on a roll. God's on my side. Let's see how far I can get. And as you probably know, he bargains him down to 10. But look at his introduction at 27. Abraham responded and said, behold, now I have decided to speak to my Lord, though I am but dust and ash. Now, this is, that's right, sorry. But it's not dust, it's dirt. This is a constant, I would call it a mistake in English translations. The word in Hebrew is afar. Afar means dirt. Ash is avak. It's a different word. Dust is a different word in Hebrew, it's avak. But, if you're a translator and you're translating for the English reader, to say dirt, just sounds awful, Doesn't sound clean, it sounds dirty somehow. So dust, and dust is poetic. and you can hear that, and it's elevated. Okay, but the word means dirt, doesn't mean dust. Dust is avak, and this is afar. Okay, so Abraham says, I am dust and ash. I'm not worthy of bargaining with you, arguing with you, of talking to you, but I'm going to do it on as well. Let's see what Rashi says on dust and ash.
Efer is ash, right? Efer is the correct.
That's right. That's a correct translation. So Rashi says, I was already fit to be dirt at the hands of the kings and ashes at the hands of Nimrod. Were it not for your mercies that stood by me. The war of the 4 kings, the 5 kings, he could have lost the war. If he had lost the war, he'd have been killed and buried. And that's what it said in Genesis to Adam, that now you're going to die. You'll return to Afar, give me Afar Lukachta. You were taken from the dirt, and you're going to go back to the dirt. Your body will disintegrate, become part of the dirt. Nimrod, the oral tradition tells us, wanted to kill Abraham because of his opposition to idol worship, and he threw him into a furnace. So there he would have been burnt into ashes. So that's what Abraham says. Now, there are commentaries which say, so in other words, according to Rashi, the reference to dust and ashes here is to say how much I've already received from God. You saved me from the 4 kings. You saved me from Nimrod. I'm very beholden to you, and therefore I realize I have no right to speak to you, to object to you, to bargain with you. I have no leverage, but I'm doing it anyway. Others take this to be a statement of humility. They register a competition in humility between Abraham on the one hand and Moses on the other hand. Abraham won better, because when the people rebel against him and Aaron, he used the phrase, "V'nachnu mo ki salinu aleinu," and we, what are we? That you are complaining against us. Meaning, Moses goes further than Abraham, saying, I can't say we're anything. I can only just point out that there's nothing to say. That the table's empty. Abraham at least said that he was dirt and ashes. Now, I forget where I saw this, but I think what Abraham is saying is very, I say it's poetical, but it evokes a very profound idea. What is dirt? Dirt is the source of all life, because dirt enables plants to grow, and we all live from plants, or the animals that eat plants. So, but dirt by itself is unrealized potential. If it hasn't yet supported plant life, then it's unrealized potential. What is ashes? Ashes you get when you burn something up. That means destroyed actuality. So you have 2 ends of the spectrum. You have unrealized potential on the one side, and yet destroyed actuality on the other side, neither of which has any value. The value lies in the middle, where the potential is actualized and gives rise to a reality which is functional. And Abraham says, I'm on the two empty sides of the spectrum. That's a pretty profound, poetical way of saying there's nothing of value here. And Moses says, you're telling me there's nothing of value. I'm saying there's nothing. Period. Just nothing. Which is a step beyond. Now we know, the Torah says twice, Moshe anav mikol anav al pnei adama. Moses was more anav, which probably the English word humble doesn't do justice to, than anyone else. So in a competition in anava, Moses is going to win. But you see the way in which he wins is quite profound philosophically. And that's what Abraham says here. Yeah.
When Shlomo Melech says, how does he say it? Everything is like...
Hakol Hovel.
Is that also...
I think that's probably right. Hovel means something that's insignificant, not valuable, void, meaningless. I think that's right. That would be a good way of putting Abraham's idea.
In between maybe Moshe's and Abraham's.
No, because he's saying, like Abraham, there are things that exist, they just don't do anything. They don't mean anything. They don't perform anything of value. Mm-hmm. I would see him on Abraham's side. I don't think you can best Moses. Here, Moses here is like Okay, let's go to the next thing I just sent you today. It's a new one. 19:1 to 19:16. Here we go. All right. Okay. So then Abraham argues God down to 10, and that's the end of that interaction. Now we're chapter 19, page 85. Good. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. And Lot saw and arose towards them. He prostrated himself on his face to the ground. Like Abraham, he is, after all, Abraham's nephew. He spent a lot of time with Abraham, and he learned some of Abraham's characteristics. So, says Rashi, the two angels, one to destroy Sodom, and the other to rescue Lot. This same one, remember there were three that came to Abraham, and two came down to Sodom. So let's explain the numbers. This one that came to rescue Lot, it was he who had come to heal Abraham. Well, the third, who had come to make the announcement to Sarah that she's going to have a child, had departed as soon as he came out, carried out his mission. This is based on the principle that each angel has one task, only one function. So there were three things to be done. One is to inform Sarah that she's going to have a child. One is to destroy Sodom, and one is to save Lot, and also to heal Abraham. Saving and healing are the same function. That's why one angel can carry it out. But each angel has only one function. You want to ask a question? Yeah.
So perhaps we could interpret that healing, saving Lot is a way also to part of the healing of Abraham, since let's say somehow maybe it was something that was hurting Abraham, that Lot was followed a certain path, and when he separated from Lot, like, is it somehow
No.
not at all?
No, he finished it. He says he healed him from the circumcision. That's all. That's the only place the only thing we know about Abraham that would make him sick. I don't think there's no reason to do that. Now he's going to Sodom to save Lot. That's all. It's true that Lot is saved for Abraham's sake. That the verse will say later explicitly. But it doesn't say that Abraham was in pain or he was ill in any way because of that. No.
No, I mean, like, maybe it hurt him that it's Sarah's brother.
I mean, maybe, but it's nothing in the verse to indicate that. Nothing in the verse to hang that on. Okay, now, here it says the angels. But elsewhere, when they appear before Abraham, the scripture calls them men. So why does the scripture change its designation? So he says, when the Shekhinah was with them, it calls them men. In other words, in comparison to the Shekhinah, they're like men. In comparison to Abraham and other people, they're like angels. They're separated from them. And there, when they're speaking to Abraham, they quote God. They say God's words to him. At that point, the Shekhinah is with them. That's one possibility, changing the designation. Now, another explanation, in connection with Abraham, whose power was great, and the angels were as frequently with him as men, it calls them men. In other words, vis-a-vis Abraham, they're not so removed from him because of Abraham's greatness. Had many angels. He was used to angels. We saw this even with Hagar. When the angel appears to Hagar, and she doesn't, she's not floored, and she's not, she takes it in stride. And Rashi said there, because she was used to angels in Abraham's house. So what? Right? So vis-a-vis Abraham, for whom they were familiar, he could call them men as equals to him, but not for Lot. He calls them angels. I want to add in something here because it's an important point, and it's sort of related to this. Did Abraham know when the angels came to him that they were angels?
No.
Okay. Why would you say no?
Because their appearance, they look like
Because they look like men. Must we assume that Abraham couldn't see through their appearance? There's a better reason to think that he didn't know they were angels than that. He gave them food. Why did he feed them? If he knew they were angels, why should he feed them? Nevertheless, the commentators are split. Some say he didn't know, and some say he did know. So according to those who say he did know, your question now becomes important. If he did know, why did he give them food? I want to teach you something deep in philosophy. We normally think there's reality and then there are appearances. And we say things like, don't be misled by the appearances. And we hear, be careful. Appearances can mislead you, and discard the appearances and go for the reality, find out what things really are. And I think that philosophically that's a mistake. Because I think that appearances are just as real as the reality is. It's just a different kind of reality. What we call reality is the way a thing is in and of itself. What we call appearance is the way the world appears to me. They're both real. I'll give you an example. If you haven't done this, you should try it. Fill a glass of water, halfway full of water, and put it in a knife. Then look at it flat on. From almost every angle, it will look as if when the knife hits the surface of the water, it bends. That's the way it looks. So we say, that's only the way it looks. Don't make a mistake. The knife isn't bent. I hear you. That's true. It's only the way it looks. The knife isn't really bent. The knife is really straight. But let me ask you a question. I'm standing here, I'm looking at the glass, and I see the appearance of a bend at the surface of the water. It seems to go like this. Somebody comes up next to me, stands next to me, looks at the glass and says, I don't know what you're talking about. Looks straight to me. Looks perfectly straight to me. He has a problem. Because it doesn't look straight. It really looks bent. That's how it really looks. He's got a problem with his eyes, or with his brain, or with his mouth. Maybe he's lying, But he's got a problem. So the straightness of the metal of the knife is one thing, and the bent appearance is another thing, and the bent appearance is just as real as the straightness of the metal. Now, once you acknowledge they're just as real, when you're confronted with a situation where appearance and reality don't agree, you have to decide what to do. Shall I treat the situation in terms of reality, or shall I treat the situation in terms of the appearance? I'll give you an example. Let's suppose you are assigned to the security detail for the President of the United States. And you know that from time to time, Joe Biden puts on a bus driver's cap and a beaten-up leather jacket, and he goes wandering the streets of Washington in disguise, talking to people just to find out what they think, to find out what average people would say honestly, because no one's going to talk honestly to the President of the United States. And he does that. Now you're in off hours, and you're walking down the street in Washington, and you look in front of you and you say, aha, I know that build. I know that body posture. I know that tilt of the head. I know that's Joe Biden. But he's wearing the bus driver's cap. He's wearing the beat-up jacket. Should you walk up to him and say, good evening, Mr. President? I don't think so, because he doesn't want to be recognized. That's why he dressed up that way. Here, the right thing to do is to treat him in terms of the appearance that he's showing, not in terms of who he really is. Now, Abraham, in exactly the same way, says, these three are standing in front of me. I know they're angels, but they look like people. Now, why would God send me angels looking like people? I bet it's because, for whatever reasons God has, he wants me to treat them as people. That's how he would give them to eat, even though he knew they were angels. And what this teaches you is, don't discard appearances. Appearances are very important, in addition to the way things really are. I'll make an analogy of my own. We have discovered that the earth is not the center of the universe, that the earth rotates on its axis, which was known 1,500 years ago. It just wasn't accepted, but people did know it. And that the earth rotates around the sun, revolves around the sun is the solar system. We discovered these wonderful things. We're so clever. We're so well informed, right? But it still seems to us as if the earth, the universe revolves around us, doesn't it? Listen, the New York Times reports every day the times of sunrise and sunsets. Is the New York Times back in the Middle Ages? Did they think the sun is rising, the sun is setting? Surely not, you know. They're really up to date, hyper scientific. They know it's only, but that's the way it looks. You try looking at a sunset and say, I know what's going on. I'm rotating backwards. I can't see the sun anymore because I rotated backwards, right? It's going to be hard to do that. It doesn't feel that way, right? So I think, in addition to explaining our world in terms of this astronomy, we also ought to explain our world in terms of the appearances. We ought to say, God created us with sense organs which make it appear to us as if we're at the center. Maybe that means we're really at the center. Okay, not physically, but maybe that appearance teaches us something very important, like the whole thing was created for our sake, which is true. Right? Don't discard appearances as simply a mistake or a phantom or a mirage. An appearance is a different kind of reality. It's the way the way the world interacts with me, which is just as real as the way it is when it isn't interacting. Okay, that's what I want to tell you philosophically. Yeah.
And then following that idea, what about let's say people that has hallucinations and stuff like that? The appearance there has definitely.
People have hallucinations. So maybe I should have said one more word. So then, where's the fault? What do they mean when they say be careful? What they mean is if you take the appearances to teach you what the reality is, that's where you can make a mistake. Sometimes the appearance and the reality have to be divorced from one another. They have different characteristics. Okay, that's something to be careful about. Don't make that mistake, but don't throw away the appearances. Now, if you have hallucinations, that's very important. That tells us something about you, about your mind, about what you're worried about and concerned about. Also tells us whether we should trust you as a bus driver or not. If you have hallucinations, I think maybe you should be an accountant and not a bus driver. Right? It's not as if they just throw them away. They're very important. They're important in their own realm. They're important with their own significance. Okay, now back to work. Okay, so now the last thing it says in this verse is that the angels arrived in Sodom in the evening. Well, they left Abraham in the morning. They're not hitching rides. They're not marching on the road. They can get there like that. What took them so long? So listen to this. This is very important. This has also other. It says, did the angels tarry so long from Hebron to Sodom? But they were angels of mercy, and they were waiting. Perhaps Abraham would succeed in his defense for them, for the cities. Now, this is very, very important. First of all, angels of mercy? Listen, Rashi, didn't you just tell us that one of the angels' job was to destroy the city of Sodom? That's not like an angel of mercy to me, to you. Not an angel of mercy to me. But if you look carefully, you will see that the only name of God that is used in the whole story is the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, which is the attribute of mercy. So, one has to think about that. What are we talking about when this terrible, terrible destruction takes place? One explanation I saw recently is this, that sometimes this name of God, which connotes mercy, is used to say that the crime is so great that even the attribute of mercy agrees to the destruction. Usually, the function of the attribute of mercy is to say, don't carry out justice completely, immediately, don't push it so hard that the destruction is so great, wait, give time, give another chance. Justice usually restrains mercy. Other way around. Mercy usually restrains justice. In this case, where the destruction is absolute, using the name of mercy means even mercy has no complaint here. Even mercy has no... After all, Abraham stops at 10, doesn't he? Yeah. And there aren't 10. Okay, Rashi has an explanation why he stops at 10. But you can build it all in. Truth is, mercy is limited. Mercy isn't unlimited. If mercy is going to say to justice, we're not going to do full justice, justice is going to say, why not? Why not? Who are you to stop me? I'm also a divine attribute. And the answer has to be there's some reason why it shouldn't be fully carried out. So there's no contradiction that they're called angels of mercy. They are angels of mercy sent into destruction because even the attribute of mercy agrees to the destruction. I think it's a very profound point. I forget who said it. I wish I remember who said it, but that's what it says. Okay, now, right. I will add one thing here. There are 4 times when something happens in the Chumash, and Moses doesn't know the law. He doesn't know what to do. Twice, he immediately asks God what to do, and twice he does not. There's a wonderful kliyakar. I'll tell you the 4 cases. One case is where they came out of Egypt, and in the second year, God tells them to make a paschal sacrifice in the wilderness. And people come to Moses and say, we have been in contact with a dead body, and therefore we can't carry it out. What shall we do? And Moses says, wait a moment, and I'll tell you what God wants for you. The second case is where the daughters of Safchad come and say, our father died, and you're proposing to give the land from our grandfather only to his sons and not to us. We think that we should stand in place of our father and inherit what our father would have gotten had he been alive. And if not, let our mother do Ibum to provide another son. I mean, they have a whole argument with Moses. And Moses consults with God, and God immediately tells him the daughters should inherit, daughters play the same role as sons in this respect, and so forth and so on. Another case is where someone is caught violating Shabbos. And the fourth case is where someone blasphemes, he curses God. And in those 2 cases, Moses does not ask God what the law is, just waits. And the kliyakar says, in the first 2 cases, they were glorious. Here were extraordinarily pious people who were trying to do the right thing. In the first case, they felt we are going to be deprived of doing God's mitzvah, of bringing the paschal sacrifice. How can we be left out? Why are we being passed over? Give us a chance also. We also want to do the mitzvah. Moses says, I'll get it for you right away. The daughters of Tzachar say, we want to participate in inheriting the land and in owning the land and playing a place of fulfilling our father's position in the world. And Moses says, right away. I'll bring the judgment to God right away. But in the case of the one who violates Shabbos or the one who curses God, the question is how to punish them. Moses says, when God wants, he'll tell me. I'm not pushing it. I'm not in a hurry to find out how to punish Jews. No. I'll let it happen when it happens. Moses' care and love for the Jewish people motivates him to immediately have the wonderful expression of the Jewish people responded to, and the other two he doesn't. Here the angels are doing the same thing. We're sent on it. One is sent to destroy Sodom. Okay, but maybe Abraham will turn it back. Maybe he'll get some way to say maybe it should be next year. Who knows? Let's give him time. Let's not rush. They're acting out the bias on the side of mercy. That's what they're doing. I think that's really very, very important, very profound. Yeah. See what you can learn from Rashi. Okay, now, oops. So Abram said to the angels, "Behold now, my lords, little L," the way he would say politely, "please turn to your servant's house and stay overnight and wash your feet. And you'll arise early and go on your way." And they said, "No, we'll stay overnight in the street." So Rashi explains, turn. What's this turn? Just say him, come to the house. No, I'm going to take a circuitous path to my house in a roundabout way that they should not recognize that you are entering there. In other words, my house is on the corner. Let's go that way. And we'll come back through the valley, and then, because if I take you into my house, they'll know where you are. And as you will see, the people are going to be viciously aggressive against these strangers. But if I take you out to the valley, they won't know where you're going. They won't attack you. Remember, Lot thinks they're people. Lot for sure thinks they're people. And stay overnight and wash your feet. Now, that's a funny way to put it, right? Remember, Abraham washed their feet when he had sat them out the tree. The first thing he did was say, wash your feet. So here it's in the wrong order. Now, it is customary for people to first, is it customary? First stay overnight and afterwards wash? Moreover, Abraham said to them, first wash your feet. But so did Lot say, he reasoned, this is what Lot thought to himself. If, when the people of Sodom come, they will see that they have already washed their feet, they will invent false accusations against me, and they will say, 2 or 3 days have already passed since they came to your house, and you did not let us know. If the people of Sodom come, and they see these people in Lot's house, and they are washed, then they'll say, I wonder how long they've been here. They didn't walk in 2 minutes ago. Maybe they've been a couple of days. Well, what do you mean? Why are you hiding them, Lot? Because in the city of Sodom, hospitality was strictly forbidden. You don't take people in. They want to sleep overnight? Pay for a room in the hotel. No free board here. No free room here. We don't allow that. So he says, if I tell you, come in first and leave your feet dirty, then they know very well that you just came in. Mm-hmm. They won't accuse me of having given you a room for the night, the last 3 nights. I'm trying to protect you from that because I know what their reaction will be. It's better that they remain here with the dust on their feet so that they should appear as though they had just arrived now. Therefore he said, stay overnight first and afterwards wash. Rashi explaining the order. And they said, no, we're not coming to your house. Now, Rashi points out, to Abraham they said, so shall you do. You offered us, and they immediately received for what he should. Why is there the difference between what they said to Abraham and what they said to Lot? Well, there could be many differences. Rashi's difference, as is custom throughout, is teaching people correct behavior. Here you learn a double. From here we learn that one may refuse an offer by a person of lesser importance, but should not refuse an offer by a great man. Now, I just want to check what this translation, not quite sure. The translation here is a little too weak. The Hebrew is mikanshim esarvim l'kotan. We do refuse a smaller person, and we do not refuse a greater person. The Gemara says, if someone wants to do you a favor or wants to put you in a position of honor, don't be like unsalted meat. You know? Say no. Say no once. Wait for a second. Make sure the person really wants it. Make sure the person's gesture is not just a matter of form, but he doesn't really mean it. So you should wait for a second. If you wait for a third, then you're overcooked. Like you're waiting too long. It's not nice. This idea of testing whether he really means it or not is appropriate for ordinary people. It's not appropriate for a great person. A great person you should take for granted. He's not doing something just out of form. After all, he doesn't owe you anything. He doesn't need anything from you. He doesn't have to play up to you. So if he's offering you something or asking you to do something which will give you honor, you should simply say yes right away. That's the matter of politeness, which could be culturally bound. I'm not saying this is an absolute rule, but in our culture, this is the way that you respond. When someone asks you to lead the services in the synagogue, the rule there is first say no. First say no. If they say it again, then you know they really want it, and then you should do it if you can. Okay?